Okay, I got the Crosman 1077 here. I'm going to get to these sheets later. I'm going to show you what I'm doing here, a nice experiment, the way I test out CO2 rifles, so that I could get some data on what's going on. First of all, I want to show you guys what I chose for pellets here for this. And right here, I tried out the 7.33 grain Air Arms round nose pellets, and for the 12 shot clip I got a, let me see what kind of group size that is there. Looks like about 3 inches, something like that. And then Excite hammer, let's see what we got here. About 1.5. I was surprised that these did good. And then the best ones, of course, I've used these forever. These H&N Field Target Trophy 5.56 grain ones. They're a little more expensive, but the group sizing on this one, if you don't count that one there, is about 1.25 inches, I suppose. And 80% of them would be 1 inch. So what I did is, based off these groups, I decided the economical way to go would be the hammers, the Excite 7.87 grain pellets. Now these are 12 shot clips here, so that's why there's so many shots. This is at 15 yards, and so what I did is I thought, well, let's try a few more sets of the hammers and see what's going on. So I did, and I guess they kind of stayed together somewhat. So, but let's see what we got here. About 1.5 inches, 1.5, 1.5 to 2 inches there. What I did is I fired a few clips here. The first clip, second clip, third clip, and then had a power loss here. They started really diving, so I kind of gave up on it there. But anyway, I need you guys to stay with me in this video because there's something important I want to show you. All these sheets right here. It's the way I analyze air guns, all the air guns that I have. I want to show you my method, and I think you guys will like it a lot, especially if you have CO2 rifles. Now, these 1077s have been around for quite a while, and I would recommend just keeping the same scope on there because the accuracy is kind of limited with these. And there's a couple reasons why. For one, it's plastic. For another reason is whenever you have a CO2 rifle with a plastic clip like this, what happens is part of the CO2 gas, it's trying to push the pellet through here, this ring, but what it's doing is you're getting a lot of air blast on the sides. So it's not really sealed that tight. So that's why I'm a fan of single shot CO2 rifles. But anyway, once it's inside there in this magazine and it's in there, not only does the pellet have to go through the ring, but the pellet actually has to go through a forcing cone. And a forcing cone is the larger end of the front of the barrel, and it's kind of tapered, kind of like in a revolver. And what happens is the pellet flies in there, and then the forcing cone hits the side of the pellet, and it kind of straightens out the pellet. And then it goes down the barrel, so the pellet gets chipped on one side, kind of. It gets dinged up on one side. So you got them two problems, and that's one of the reasons why these suffer with accuracy problems. Because whenever you have a forcing cone, that means you're hitting the pellet on one side to try to straighten it out to go down the barrel. Now, if they didn't put a forcing cone in, everything would have to be lined up perfectly. So if you had a 177 size here at the barrel right here, if the pellet went through the ring and it hit a metal surface, well, that's not good. So that's why they install forcing cones. And you'll know what I mean if you take out a .38 revolver or something. You'll see what I mean. It's always bigger at the forcing cone than it is where the ring is. So, but anyway, Stick with me with this video. By the way, for new people, for this rifle, it takes 1 CO2, and I estimated that you're going to get probably 52 good shots. If you really want to know the truth out of this, you're going to get, you know, like 50 shots out of it or something. So yours might be a little different than mine, but I kind of think 50 shots is about all you can expect out of it, according to these sheets of paper I'm going to talk about soon here. So, but anyway, I just wanted to share my thoughts with this. There are some guys online that bought the PCP version, which is the Wildfire, and it's basically kind of the same rifle. It's just that it's got the PCP option, and terrible. Really, they're having a lot of problems with it. So it's terrible. I told one guy online too, you know, he was worried. He was saying, well, the trigger's hard to pull, so that's the problem. No, not necessarily. Hard trigger pulls aren't always the problem to air guns. Even if this one did have a hard trigger pull, I can lock this one down at bench rest where it can't move. And I didn't see any movement in my scope when I pulled the trigger, so the trigger doesn't have anything to do with it. It's how the rifle's made. It's the plastic rings. It's the leaking of the CO2. It's the forcing cone right here. Like I said, I'm a fan of a single shot tray, you know, or something that's tight. If they had a single shot version of this, that would be much better. I'm also not a fan of using really nice scopes for rifles that don't shoot that well. So you would hope for most air guns to at least group 5-shot groups 3/4 of an inch at 15 yards or under. You would hope for that, because what that translates into out in the field is 1.5 inch groups at 30 yards, and that's what you want for kind of like your the unofficial hunting standard for the most part is about 1 inch groups at 25 yards with 5 shots. So nobody ever talks about that, but in England and stuff, rabbit hunting and stuff like that, you know, guys are always talking about 25 yards, 1 inch groups, we got to have it, that kind of thing. And so it kind of became kind of like a standard. So kind of unofficial, but it kind of got around as a standard, but that was decades ago. So anyway, the rest of the video is coming up here. I want to talk to you about these sheets then. So I'll catch you later. Okay, here are the Excite hammer pellets. These are the most economical way to shoot this rifle, like I was showing you for the groupings. So these are kind of like a half round nose type pellet. Almost looks more like a wad cutter, but it's got a slight round shape on the head there. So these here, these run about, I say about $5.50 for 500. They're pretty cheap. And the best grouping pellet, which is going to be $15, $16 for 500, is these. These are the 5.56 H&N Field Target trophy pellets. These are them alloy pellets. But the good thing about these is they're really well made. They're dimensionally perfect, and they can't get dented because it's like a tin alloy. So I would stay away from them zinc alloy pellets. You can tell the zinc pellets because they kind of turn gray. I would stay away from them. But these tin pellets, the tin-based alloy ones, I haven't had any problems or issues with rifling or anything like that. So, but anyway, I wanted to show you these pellets here that I was using. So, okay, for the Crosman 1077, these are all the shots doing sets of 4. So if you see 3 of these sheets, it's actually 1 clip. So that's 1 clip there, 2 clips, 3 clips, 4 clips, and 5 clips. Now this one here, the reason why I put this here is because there's no shots on here because the shots drop low under the paper here. Pay no attention to that circle. The circle is just aim point reference for me. So what we can learn from the 1077 shooting these Excite hammer pellets, these are 7.87 grain. What we can learn from this sheet is we can learn a lot about the drop and about the groupings and stuff like that. So this is something I do with a lot of my rifles, even if they're spring piston, pump, doesn't matter, CO2, I do this with all of them. What I'll do is I'll find a pellet that I want to use, and I'll do several sets, and then I'll analyze all the sets like I'm doing here on the table. And that's really the best way you can do it, to figure out what pellet is going to work the best in your rifle. The reason why I picked the hammer pellet is because it's economical, and it's going to cost a lot of money to shoot them field target pellets that I showed in that one, on that one paper, them alloy H&N field target trophies, them 5.56 grains. Them are kind of gonna get expensive. So, but anyway, here's what we learn, and it's pretty much what I've known for the most part is whenever you have a CO2 rifle, the first set or two are always going to kind of shoot high. So if you look here, we got the first clip right about in the middle here. So there's the first clip, and then you notice that when we get to the second clip, it drops a little, and it keeps consistent for one clip, two clips, and probably three clips, and then all of a sudden it starts to really drop off. So that's a curve. That's a curve of your shot. So when you start out shooting, for instance, if you have like a mil-dot reticle instead of a duplex reticle, what you want to do is you don't want to sight it in. Or let's see, we got, you don't want to sight it in for the first clip, but maybe sight it in for the second. You know, or if you're going to use the mil dots in a different way, you can, but especially those with duplex reticles, if they try to sight it in here, then later when they shoot, they're going to have drops. So for a duplex reticle, the best place you can sight it in for is not the first clip, but the second clip, and then you're going to be kind of consistent all the way through here, and then by the time you get past the fourth clip, then you're pretty much done. So this one right here, 4 clips after that. Well, let's see how many we got here. Let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 5 clips of 12 shots, and of course these 4 shots went low here. So every one of these pieces of paper has got 4 shots. Now the groups, really not all that good, and that's kind of the nature of these plastic ring magazine CO2 rifles, because there's a couple facts. There's a forcing cone inside the barrel, so when the pellet comes out of the clip, it's got to hit itself against that forcing cone and straighten itself out. And then also what you have is when you put the clip in, sometimes or most of the time what happens is the CO2 isn't tight in there, so you get a lot of leak around the ring magazine because there's nothing to keep it nice and tight. And I'm sure you guys know that if you shot this rifle, you could feel some of the CO2 coming back in your face. So, and that's pretty much the nature of these rifles. I've had these 1077s ever since they first came out, and that's just kind of the nature of them. So let me show you the groups here so you have kind of an idea of the groupings. 1 1/4 inches center to center, 3/4, 2 inches, 1 3/4, 1 1/4, 1 let's see, that's 1 1/4. Let's see what we got here. I'm looking through the camera so I can't always see that well. 1 1/4, 1 inch, 3/4 of an inch, 1 3/4, 1 1/4, 1 inch, 3/4. Sometimes it gets better because when the speed gets lower, sometimes the pellet likes that lower speed, but we're already almost through with all the gas here. So, but anyway, what you can learn from this chart now is you take all these averages, or not averages, but you take all these dimensions here and you average it out. But I wouldn't count this one here because it's really starting to drop here. So I would count all these and kind of give yourself like an average so you know what it's going to do. And based off what I'm thinking is maybe about 1.5 inch groups or 2 inch groups at 15 yards. So you can expect maybe like 4 inches or something like that at 30 yards. So what it amounts to basically is this rifle is pretty much for pop can killing out to about 25 yards. And that's about what it's going to do. Now, the manufacturer talks about velocity and stuff like that. Well, it doesn't really matter what the velocity is. If it doesn't have the accuracy, if you get out there anyway, you're not going to be able to hit much. So, and the other method that I want to tell you guys about with CO2 rifles is whenever you're doing your shots, in between each shot, what you want to do is wait a few seconds before you pull the trigger. So that's repressurization. You want to do that. And of course, you know I repressurized after I shot these 3 because I had to change a clip. So it was repressurized for these next 3. So when you're taking your shots, you don't want to take them fast. You want to take them nice and slow. So you want to take one shot, count about 5 to 7 seconds, then take another, then take another, take another. I see people online, they're just pumping out the rounds really fast, and that's going to make them drop quicker. So instead of seeing this sheet here where you have some even shots right here that are all kind of consistent and all in the same area, you're going to have massive drops because you're pulling that trigger too fast. There were some guys online that were talking about the wildfire, and that's pretty much a PCP version of this one here. And it's a problem for a lot of people. I'm hearing a lot of problems, and it's probably because it's based on this rifle here. The thing that people have to know about that is that marketers are not going to tell you anything bad. They don't have the guts to do it. And I see these guys online, I won't give you any names, but these guys that do these airgun reviews online, and they get paid, and they say, oh, we tell the truth, and I'm going to give you, you know, what I think about this rifle no matter what. They never do. They're getting paid, so they're not going to say anything negative. What they're going to do is they're going to pull out the positive parts about the rifle. Like, for instance, they'll say, well, it's good for plinking cans or something. But they're not going to tell you how terrible the accuracy is. They're going to want you to buy that wildfire PCP rifle, but then people are sending them back. So what's the use? Why not be honest with people, you know what I mean? So anyway, I wanted to show you this because this is some method that I do to analyze what's really going on with a rifle and with a pellet. Now, I did want to use better pellets, but like I said, it gets expensive. So these Excite Hammer pellets I think will do fine for 15 yards. And it looks like at 30 yards you're going to be able to hit a can based off these groups because the groups usually double. So at 15 yards, if you got 1 inch, you're going to have 2 inches at 30 yards. And a pop can is just a little bit wider than 2 inches in the width. So it looks like you know, pretty much a can killer at 30 yards. You can try to, like I said, when you sight it in now, you have to remember if you do sight it in somewhere in the first clip, you have to remember that you're going to start having a drop right about the next clip. So it's going to drop a little bit on you. And it looks like from here you are going to have an average drop of, I'd say, about 1 inch for that next clip. So you want to be aware of that. If you guys have mil-dot reticles, I'm sure you're going to see it in your reticle and you're going to know what the drop is. So, but anyway, I thought I'd share this with you because this is a good way to have analysis. And if you guys are ever wondering what the best pellet for your rifle is, this is one sure way to do it, because you have to fire a lot of rounds so that you can see what the behavior of the pellet is, the rifle, or your behavior as far as, you know, how you're holding the rifle. Like for instance, spring piston rifles, if you have the right artillery hold, even at bench rest, you have to have something that allows the rifle to recoil. You have to have that. As far as scopes for this rifle, I would just keep the 4x15. There's no sense in putting a good scope on something that's not going to group well. So you're fine with the 4x15 scope that it probably comes with, and you'll get out to 30 yards, and anything past that you might as well set up milk jugs, because that's all you're going to hit. So, but anyway, thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, or you want me to give you my advice on how to test pellets and stuff, leave a few comments or whatever, or give me input on some of the rifles that you've had that you might not have liked, that were CO2, that you had problems with. Also, I know a lot about the QB78, so I can help you guys with that one too. So that one is much better than this rifle here. So this one I just have because, you know, like I said, it's just for pop cans. That's it, for fun. You know, you got kids coming over, and you just pull the trigger. That's it, you know, and shoot the pop cans at 15-25 yards, and that's about it. All right, well, thank you very much for watching, you guys.